Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today, my guest is Joohee An from Mirae Asset Global Investments. Welcome, Joohee.
Hi, good morning.
Joohee, today we want to discuss recent developments in Asia and especially the Asian consumption megatrend. So this topic has been around for a couple of years as an investment story. How did COVID-19 change the situation? What influence did the pandemic have on the Asian consumption trends?
Consumption is nicely recovering thanks to the pent-up demand and government support. Although Asia is also not yet out of the pandemic situation, but we witnessed some consumer habit changes here in Asia as we are going through this unprecedented event. First, consumers easily adopt new technologies for the areas where they used to prefer offline channels. For example, many of them used to prefer offline markets for grocery shopping because they thought they could pick more fresh ones in person and bring those home more quickly. However, the pandemic let more people try online channels to order fresh items such as vegetables and fruits. Then they realized that the quality of the products and delivery time are actually better than they thought. Plus, convenience is a significant alpha to them. So online companies have been investing more in this sector to grasp the first leadership in the industry. So the service quality has been improving as well. So grocery shopping has been one of the least penetrated sector for online so far, but I believe this will keep changing even post-pandemic. Secondly, lots of consumers used to prefer foreign places for their vacations, but they have found domestic tourism attractiveness more than before. Since Asia has been better controlled from the virus compared to the US or the Europe, Asian consumers had no option but to travel within their own countries. In Greater China or Korea in particular, we see consumers actually enjoy finding new hidden places in their own countries and good food at lower prices compared to outbound trips. Again, the convenience and the less time-consuming way is another alpha to them. So they like to take shorter trips more often this way. Third, interestingly, the consumers choose local brands more than before in various sectors, especially in China. Consumers are proud of better containment of the virus than the others. Also, there have been some news reports like they reportedly found some coronavirus in some imported frozen food as well. So as a result of them, some consumers, they feel safer and proud by choosing local brands over foreign brands.
Hi there, just a 2-second break. Before we continue with the video, just make sure to subscribe to our channel now to not miss out any updates. Thank you very much and enjoy the video now. So what longer term consumption trends arise in Asia, and in what sectors and industries do you expect exponential growth?
So for that question, I would talk about 3 long-term trends emerging in Asia now. So first, we see higher growth for premium products. So Asian consumers prioritize quality over volume now. As their wealth level keeps rising, they prefer to buy higher quality products, which means product quality is becoming more important than the price factor. This premiumization trend is seen in most consumer sectors, such as packaged food or condiment, or other even non-food sectors like personal products, etc. And second, the healthy life is becoming a more critical factor in making decisions for money spending. It is also related to the first trend that I talked about in terms of that they care about quality. So here, what I'm talking about is they care about the quality of their life, not just product. So one of the easiest example of this trend is the combination of fashion and sports. So the consumers used to separate the sports outfit from other regular outfits for work or just fashion, for example. So however, a new trend is they prefer more comfortable and healthy options, even for their work or meeting friends or anything else. So they just wear yoga pants, for example, just to go out for lunch with friends, and wear workout shoes to go to work, for example. So also like flat shoes are preferred to high heels for their ankle health for female workers. And also they spend more money to order health supplements than before and download more health-related applications on their phones. So in short, Asia consumers are becoming very health conscious, and the health-related products and services will show higher growth than the industry, I believe. And third, the overall rural consumption will be higher than urban consumption growth. So as well as the rising urbanization, the online companies' heavy investment to penetrate the rural areas is now making fruits. The pandemic, of course, the pandemic accelerates this penetration from the demand side as well. So rural consumers want to and also are able to access better services and products through online platforms.
China is trying to become self-sufficient in technology. Think about semiconductors. So where do investment opportunities arise from that, and which influence does it have for local consumption?
So I believe this will give more opportunities to the most supply chains in hardware and software areas, and eventually this heavy investment will enhance the service qualities on online platforms in various sectors as well. So taking the example of the semiconductor sector, like you mentioned, fabless is it's easier to localize, so the relevant companies will get benefit. For the business like memory chip and foundry, actually the localization ratio is still very low. For example, like foundry business is only single digit of market share from the local companies, but it will eventually increase with the fast investment and migration by the company and the government support. While at the equipment side is still they need a lot of important equipment from the US. So that part maybe the localization process will be much slower. Well, besides hardware sector, we believe online companies will also become more important as a backbone to offer new services and integrate all the new technologies to be connected to real demand. So most hardware, software, and online service firms will benefit from this policy direction. But having said that, of course, this is very important, and I think that this is one of the most important themes in Asia. But their self-sufficiency target cannot be reached in a day, right? It takes time. So there could be some volatility on the road to the point.
Many investors closely observe Chinese internet stocks like Alibaba and Tencent, and the prices rose sharply during the last couple of months, which led to high valuations. So what's your take on those stocks? And are you still confident in their growth? And are you still overweighted in Alibaba and Tencent, for example?
The technology innovation is the Chinese government's top priority, and these internet companies are essential to realizing China's future growth in that regard. The valuations got re-rated this year, especially under the pandemic situation. Still, we believe that the new demand growth triggered by the pandemic is not going to go away even after the pandemic. It becomes more structural growth rather than a one-off event. Internet stocks revenue stream is also getting more diversified than before, not just focusing on one or two specific sectors. So their earnings growth is also becoming less volatile and more visible. In other words, these companies are becoming more like consumer stocks, where we can see both defensiveness and growth potential. So that could justify some of the re-rating, we believe. However, of course, there are always some potential risks. And then in terms of the potential risk factor for these kind of companies will be some regulation. Just like we saw from the IPO suspension of Ant Group in early November, and also antitrust regulation, which was announced in November as well. I think still fundamentally they are very strong, and then I am still positive on those names, but we have to be mindful that there could be some potential volatility driven by the kind of regulations.
So why does it make sense to cover a topic like Asian consumption via an active managed strategy and not via an index tracker, for example?
That's because consumption is more about local stories rather than kind of global issues. So each country has different background, different consumer taste, and different regulations, etc., which makes the best stock ideas all different country by country. We need to pick the right stocks from each country, regardless of benchmark. So, for example, the e-commerce industry sounds like a common trend in most emerging markets, but we can find good investment opportunities among listed companies in China, but not really in India yet, for example. So we can find more necessity-related investment opportunities in South part of Asia that includes more developing countries, while we focus on more next level of consumption in North part of Asia, including in China and Korea. Second, more and more beneficiaries of Asian consumption growth are found beyond traditional consumer sectors. For example, healthcare and online channels, or airports, or retail banks, etc. These are all outside the traditional sectors according to the benchmark, but we invest in those companies because they are also direct beneficiaries of Asian consumption growth. So another reason that we need to be active is that the competition of Asian consumer market, because it's getting more and more fierce now as it becomes the largest consumer in the world. Even more global, most global brands also are coming over to expand their business. So the business volatility can be higher. So some brands can even be disappeared out of top ranks in a short period of time. Therefore, we need to find high quality companies where we can have a high and strong conviction on the management that can generate more sustainable earnings growth for the next several years.
Can you give us one or two examples of stocks that you recently bought or where you have risen the share and that are representative for your portfolio strategy and your approach?
Well, we believe we can find good investments in the companies who can consolidate the industry with a strong and sustainable competitiveness. So, besides Tencent, which is already very well known to investors, I would introduce a Chinese education company, New Oriental. This is not a new company in our fund. This has been in the fund for many years already. And this is one of the leading after-school tutoring service providers, especially for K-12 students in China. So the demand growth is very steady and sticky, even in the economic downturns, because the decision makers are parents who think their kids' education is top priority for their consumption. However, the industry itself is still very fragmented, with only single digit of market share by two leading companies. So we have a high conviction on the management and their capability, like long-term record, their track record has shown. So we have added on DIP when its share price was under pressure from non-fundamental issues in the market. So for example, in the second half of 2018, the overall education sector has underperformed because of the regulations, new regulations. but we thought it will be even more beneficial to leading companies eventually. So we added more weights during that kind of the underperforming period. Early this year as well, when the market's interest is going to more online education because of the pandemic, this company underperformed due to its larger exposure to offline classes. But we believe that for K-12 education especially, offline classes will enjoy higher loyalty and steadier earnings growth because parents prefer offline options for their kids because of the better engagement. So in a nutshell, we believe that we can find a good opportunities in more interesting industries who are, that are still underpenetrated. So we are trying to figure out which one is going to be leader to consolidate that market opportunities eventually.
So this was Joohee An from Mirae Asset. Thank you very much, Joohee, for being with us today and sharing your views.
Thank you very much for having me.